Welcome to the Wholesaling podcast. I'm your host, Chris Arnold. As always, grateful that you joined us today and going to bring the heat, going to bring you some value as always. And so here's what you're in store for today. Kind of a twofold value piece that we're bringing to the table. Today, I got Jeff Anderson on, who is an REI Radio student. And we're going to go in and talk about what Jeff has already accomplished in 2.5 months, the deals that he's not just executed, but already closed and put in his pocket and what he's got in his pipeline. This is why I love radio, because you don't have to sit around and wait for 6 months to get paid. You turn this bad boy on, the calls come in, and you start closing deals. It's that straightforward. But the second piece, which I think is going to be super valuable, is Jeff's doing something interesting. He's closing deals in a market that he's not in, right? Virtual. It's in the same state, but it's a long drive. And so half the deals that he's actually closing, he's not getting belly to belly, eye to eye. And so what I want to do is I want to break down Jeff's process. Like, what are your hacks? What are your shortcuts? What's the actual system to pull this off? And how do you execute a contract without shaking somebody's hand? Like, how do you pull that off? So that's what you're going to get today. Excited for you guys to tune in. So, man, let's get down to it. Let's get to the meat. Jeff Anderson, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine. How's it going, Chris?
Doing well, man. So, hey, those that don't know Jeff, give us a quick snapshot, man. Tell us how long you've been in the game and a little bit about your biz, man.
Cool. Got started about 2012. Spent a lot of money on a coaching program. Seen some early success. And then around probably about 3 years ago or so, my business partner and I decided to go our separate ways, split up assets. So, I had to pretty much start from the ground up and get it going. And here I am, just really getting some momentum. And, we're trying to get some things rolling back again so we can see some more success.
I like it. So are you consider yourself a wholesaler? Like, what exit strategies are you using? How do you kind of tackle the game when there's a lot of tools out there? What's your perspective on this?
No, absolutely. I mean, right now I'm wholesaling because, just between the split up and everything like that, just having to pay back a lot of debt, I figure out, wholesale and then turn that into income that I can do some more rentals with and then flips. So right now, wholesaling is the main strategy though.
Okay. Now, I think I heard you say you are also licensed, so you can get a cut off of any listing leads that come through.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yep. So yeah, I did. I went and got my license since that was also a function that my partner had at the time. And I was like, well, I might as well be able to try and monetize things from all angles. So yep, got licensed in North and South Carolina just so that I could also do that.
Cool. So I like it. Investor/agent. And again, if you're listening, we're not telling you go out and get licensed, but it sure is nice to be able to get paid off those retail deals that you can't convert into a deep discount. So rather than crumpling those up and throwing them in the trash, it's always nice to list those yourself, take 3% or refer them out and take 25%, which Jeff does. It's already a deal he's done off radio as one of the referrals. So we'll circle back around to that. So
Absolutely.
All right, let's go through this scenario, right? I'm a seller. Jeff, I call you. I want to sell my house, and you quickly realize that, this is in the market that is not close to you, and you don't want to hop in your car and drive a couple hours. How are you going to practically convert me from a system standpoint? And how are you going to convince me to do this deal without shaking your hand and looking you in the eye? Like, walk us through this, like baby steps.
No, for sure. Well, it begins with building rapport with the seller, finding out what the situation is, what the issues are, getting a clear view of the condition, the timeline they have to sell, why they're looking to sell, those general things. And then from there, it's really about, if they can, I'll ask them to send pictures. And if they're not able to send pictures, then I'll try to find some boots on the ground. And the markets that I'm in, for the most part, the ones that I'm getting the marketing in, I do have somebody that's there that can get pictures if I need to.
Okay. You already dropped a couple nuggets here. So you actually ask the seller to take pictures of the house and send it to you. Do you tell them to do that on their iPhone? I also know that pictures can be big, so they're hard to email. Like, what is the actual tech process for you to get the pictures that you want, good quality, and actually get them back to you? Like, how are you doing that practically?
No, good question. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be on the phone. Most people have their phone handy with them, and even with some of the not as tech savvy sellers, they have a sibling or they have a family member that can just go by and take pictures, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people already have pictures kind of hanging around because they were thinking about selling. So yeah, I just tell them to
That's a good
text.
point. I didn't think about that. They might already have them handy and we just never even asked for them. So I think that's a great point. So when they send them back to you, do they send them back to you via text, or how are you actually getting them back?
Yeah, normally it'll be via text. Every now and again, I will have some that come email, but so far in the past, month especially, a majority of them have been through text message.
Okay. So how do you ensure this scenario doesn't happen? You get the pictures back and you're like, oh my gosh, like they missed like half the house, what I need to see. Like, how are you making sure that this just doesn't become a back and forth and you feel like you end up pestering and annoying the seller?
Nah, for sure. Now, I do ask them to give me a certain amount of pictures of the inside and outside, and even mention
How many? Like, you tell them how many?
I usually try to say at least 30, just an even number, because sometimes I want them to take multiple pictures of the same thing because the first one might come out blurry or something. But, it's really because that happened actually, where somebody took pictures and they had all the inside, they didn't have the outside. So I had to go back and say, hey, can you get me some of the outside too? And so I'm in that situation now where he said, okay, I'll get down there in a couple of days and get the rest. But yeah, I try to instruct them to get some good pictures. And then I always mention some of the main things that I'm looking for, like the roof, if there's an HVAC system, if there's anything around the outside, just try to walk them through it as elementary as possible just to get it done.
Yeah. You know what dawns on me as an idea for that system as I'm sitting here? What about a checklist of pictures that's sent via text? So you can communicate it verbally, but what if there was a little infographic you had made up that you text, and it's fundamentally like, okay, 30 pictures of the outside, make sure you get a picture of X, X, and X. And that might be a way to just kind of automate that process and not have to worry about them getting it verbally. I don't know if you thought about that, but that literally just dawned on me while I was talking to you.
That would be very helpful. I need to do that.
So, okay.
You're a genius.
So you get that. We're brainstorming right here. We're going over the ideas live as we go. So I'm all about efficiency. Get it down to the irreducible minimum, right? So you get pictures, but then you mention boots on the ground. Again, take me down to the practicalities. Like, who are you hiring? How are you compensating them? How much? What's that look like, et cetera?
No, for sure. Well, I do have in one of my markets, I have somebody that actually does rehab and has also been a friend. So I try to go in markets where I already have warm contacts and people are always willing to pretty much help me out where needed, and I could cash app them some gas money if needed. But you'd be surprised. And not just that, but even in just going in the Facebook groups and just connecting and getting with other investors, they're always willing to say, hey, I'll go down there and I'll check it out for you and I'll be your boots on the ground. So, the Facebook groups have always been just a great opportunity to connect with other investors too. But like I said, I've been pretty blessed to have some friends in the areas that I'm investing, and they'll just go out and they'll do it, whatever needs to be done to make that connection if needed.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, utilizing the Facebook, I don't know that I've heard a lot of people actually mention that. So what a great way to find someone and do some boots on the ground. And as you said, you got a friendship with them, but at the same time, you kick them a little something for their time. So my question is, do you ever find yourself like running around like last minute trying to find someone, or do you find, who you have locked down are pretty consistent for you?
In real rural areas, that's where the challenge comes in. And when something like that happens, I posted something on Craigslist, matter of fact, for one deal that I had, and it took a little while, but then I did find somebody. Another thing that I did that was a hack that got me, that did get me a call back was I went on Google and I was just driving the city, and then I saw a paint vehicle, and I called them. And they ended up being able to go by the house to help out. So it was random because sometimes they blur out the numbers when you do Google through the seat or whatever. But this one had the number on the side of the paint vehicle. So I called them up and they were able to go out and check out a house for me.
Okay. So I understand you start by building great rapport. I understand how you get pictures. You got boots on the ground. So what happens after that? How do you practically then go from gathering the information you need? What are the next steps after that?
Yeah, so once I'm in a position where we come to an agreement on a price and I lock it up, just had a deal where I was able to Amazon a lockbox over to the.
I love you like drop shipped it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic idea.
Yep, went on Amazon, sent it right to his place, and then got the key up in there and got it locked up.
You didn't even have to make the drive. I love it. Don't you love technology and where we're at, where you can just go online and order a lockbox? Okay. So now you got a lockbox on the door. What happens after that?
From there, I just start the marketing process pretty simultaneously. I start the marketing process. I push it out on, my website or my links, and I push it out to the buyers. And I still even use Craigslist. You'd be surprised. You still get some buyers on Craigslist, and just start the process of getting the calls in. I run it through my call rail number so that I could pretty much keep track of who's calling where. And it also builds my buyers list at the same time.
Totally makes sense. Now, do you ever find though, when you're not face-to-face, that rapport piece is a little bit hard? Like when you get down to dropping the number, right? As we say, okay, let's get down to the reality of what I'm going to offer you for this house. Do you feel it's hurting your conversion not to be there sitting with them? I mean, how do you navigate that piece of a crucial conversation virtually?
Yeah, I found a combination of both. I know, especially in the South Carolina market, I found that with some of the older sellers, they want to see somebody because they don't want to feel like you're being scammed. And I haven't found that a lot, but just with some. I know I had to actually make a drive to get a contract signed, but I was okay with that because it was definitely going to be a good spread. But overall, the rapport that I build on the phone and the value that I bring in what I do, it's been okay. It's been pretty, like I said, 50-50. So it's been good with still being able to lock it in and get what's needed. So yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. I like what you say though, even though you have a system, it's still, it's not like it's a policy, it's a fundamental guideline. So if you sense that, hey, the seller I'm dealing with, I can tell, through the rapport building, because I can tell you have good EQ, you're willing to go, hey, you know what, in order to get this deal done, I just need to jump in the car and drive over there. So I like the fact that you're listening and understanding, hey, I can get this deal done virtually. If not, I'm going to hop in the car. I'm going to go get this deal done and make the drive so I don't lose it. So I think it's good because I think sometimes we get really black and white about these issues. So that's the way, that we've always done it in my team. Ideally, number one, you want to close it over the phone. Number two, you want them to come to you, either to your office or to a Starbucks nearby. Or number three, you go out to their house if you absolutely. And that's always been our kind of process for maintaining efficiency, right? Because that's the most efficient steps, going down from most efficient to least efficient. So I love it. And then after that, I mean, are you just left with signatures and utilizing DocuSign, or am I missing anything else that you use through this process to do this virtually?
Yeah, for the most part. I know the last process and going through the attorney, we're an attorney state. I rather use attorneys anyway. Is that they, schedule the signing. They and I try to schedule something close by wherever the property is within the vicinity, and they went and signed, and then that was pretty much it. I did drive down, one time to get a check, but more often than not, a wire is sufficient. We could get it in the bank, and everything keeps rolling, go on to the next.
Good. So I imagine if you could do all of your deals virtually, would you?
Absolutely.
If it was possible, you would.
Yeah.
Well, I know some people, they differ on that. They want to go out and, they like to meet the seller for whatever reason. Maybe they're a little bit more, I'll use the word traditional. But, man, I'm like you. If there was a way to do 100% of these without actually ever having to go out to the house, I just look at it from an overall systems and time management standpoint. I mean, how many more deals can you lock up on a phone in a day versus sitting in traffic and losing, a couple hours to drive time itself? I mean, there went half your day when you could have been using that additional 2 hours to lock up another deal virtually. So I think if you span that out over a year and actually calculated it, you would probably fall back out of your chair to realize how much time is lost in drive time. It's not efficient. So I agree with you on that. But again, if you're listening and you want to do the face-to-face, that's what I always tell you, man, it's your business. You run it in a way that fits your values and your style. That's most important. So just because it's done one way doesn't mean you got to do it that way.
Yeah.
So
part of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, and part of it is also because I still do have a full-time W-2. So, time is money, and I don't have.
I love you brought that up. So your life mandates it. Not only with that, you and I were talking earlier. So you got family, you've got, your job, and then you've got this hustle that you're doing. So, anyone listening understands, man, you really got to manage your time. To balance all three of those things and to do this. So, man, I applaud you because that's not an easy juggle. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
So, yeah, I just kind of heard it like, yeah, it's a stretch. I felt it when you said that. So, listening knows what that feels like. So, Jeff, let's transition here, man. Let's talk about radio. So, you look at radio and before radio, how were you trying to lock up deals? Like, what was your process? What marketing channels were you using?
Doing cold calling, RVMs, SMSs, pretty much.
You were spending time.
Yeah. I mean, the first early deals when I started, those were bandit signs, and that was, back when the getting was good. And but yeah, now it was SMS, cold calling, and RVMs.
So let me ask you a straight up question. We know all of those work, but do you like working them?
Honestly, it's a challenge. It's a challenge working them. Not just for, you feel like you're bugging people, and I block numbers every day trying to sell me, car warranties. So, it's a struggle because, people get upset or they say, take me off your list, or you're going, well, I have VAs, but they're going through dozens and thousands of calls just to get that yes, which is part of the process. But, it's a time suck.
Yeah. I think you nailed it right there. And again, if you're new to the game and you don't have money, but you have time, it's a great way to start filling up the bank account so you can transition from prospecting outbound to actually start spending some money to create inbound. So this is the exact case for you, Jeff, right? Because you did some of those fundamental things and you stacked some cash that allowed you to take a step over to the marketing side. So you're over here, you're doing the traditional outbound through those three avenues, and then boom, you hear about radio. What caught your interest? What made you go, you know what, I'm actually going to spend some money here and, really get into advertising monthly and trying to generate some calls?
It's crazy. I've known about radio for years because I'm actually in the radio business, for the most part, but I've never personally advertised on it. But then watching the podcasts and listening to all the testimonials and just getting a glimpse of how the process was going, I was like, man, I got to give this a shot. And not just that, the continuous tune was it's not really that expensive. And again, I know what people charge, but I'm like, there must be a secret sauce that even me knowing the back door of how this thing works that I'm not tapping into and getting to know better. So I was intrigued to say, okay, let me give this a shot, jump all in. I'm familiar with the product, so I believe in it. I just have to actually utilize it and execute it. It's kind of like it's kind of like a relief pillow that's been laying next to you your whole life, and you never grabbed it to lay on it to get the relief, and now you did. And you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this earlier?
Wow, this just got juicy, right? Because let me get this right. You work in radio, right? Yeah. It is in front of you every day, and there just wasn't a connection of taking this channel and applying it to the very side hustle you have, which is wholesale.
Yeah, exactly. And
I gotta ask, so this is fascinating to me, Jeff.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind of why you didn't? Was it just just didn't connect the dots, or I thought about it, but these couple of objections popped up in my mind. So I kind of glossed over it. Like, what happened there psychologically? I got to know.
Now, honestly, it's two things. One was I just thought that it was expensive because I know what people spend in radio. I see the orders all the time. But two, honestly, was conflict of interest too, where I didn't want it to be a conflict in my market, advertising in the same market that I was also working in.
Wow. So this is great. So you looked at radio, you said, dude, I look at what people are paying for radio every day. And you said, man, I can't afford. But what you now realize is they were all paying retail, and now you've come in and bought wholesale, and you were in the industry and didn't even understand it. So let me ask you this. You're on a radio station right now. How much is your monthly budget for that station, if you don't mind me asking?
No, it's $800.
Was that just not something you fathomed at the time, that you buy radio that low?
Not at all. Not for the amount of spots, the frequency, not for the frequency. Not
100 spots. Let's put that in perspective. That's 25 spots per week, 5 spots per day.
Not a million years I ever thought that.
Is this, so I'm asking you live, like I would be having this conversation with you if we weren't recording. Is that because the radio industry just, like, how are the dots not being connected there? Are they just so used to selling retail like a real estate agent that they just don't? Is it people don't know on radio? Do they not think that they can go that low? Those that run these radio stations, like what's happening, at the kind of corporate level with that?
Yeah, unless somebody has an agency that they're dealing with, or unless it's political, they probably don't know how to really buy radio, and they're not being taught the real ABCs of it. And it's just, they get what they get and they're like, okay, let's go for it. It's kind of like,
so I hear you. It's just kind of a lack of education. It's, it's ignorance. I just didn't know that could happen, but it is fantastic to me, right? That you were in the industry. And again, I say this all the time. People were like, well, why don't people advertise on radio? And I always tell them, I can tell you a couple reasons. Right? The main reasons I see: number one, it's not affordable. So they tell themselves that and they overlook it. And number two, they think that radio is, archaic, and it is. And then I have to remind them that so is their primary audience. Primary audience is over the age of 50. They're old, just like radio is. And they utilize it all the time because they were raised that way. But it fascinates me, man, that you're actually in the radio world and
for 20 plus years.
20 plus years, and that jump wasn't made there. So I love this. And honestly, we're hitting on our secret sauce. I mean, we'll just straight up tell you, the reason that radio works so well is because, like with Jeff or anyone else, we have a systematic, what I would call data-driven process to go in and literally buy radio at like 25 cents on the dollar. That's fundamentally like how we show you how to do that. And I don't know, Jeff, at this point that anyone else really does that I've come across, or they know how.
No, not that I've seen.
Now, everyone's paying retail.
Unless it's the agency, unless it's, like I said, an agency or maybe political.
I've had agencies in the past, and they were selling me retail. So I was running spots, bro, that were $500 for a 60-second spot.
Oh, yes.
$500 for a 60-second spot. So that's the truth, man. Okay, so this is fantastic. Let's get over to like what's happened. So you've been up on 2.5 months, right?
Yeah.
You've closed the deal already, like funded. How much did you make on your first deal, Jeff?
10,000, 10 grand.
Boom. So 10 grand. And then you got another one that's actually closing Tuesday. And how much is that one?
That one's 15.
So you will have $25K in your pocket by Tuesday on an ad spend that costs $800. Well, let's say you're 2.5 months.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go 3 months, right? So I'm gonna say that's more closer to, let's say, 2,200. Still, at that point, you're roughly getting a 1 to 12 return, right? Mathematically.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I could have closed the first one probably within the first month. I just gave it time because it was a new spend and it was a new market. So I was still trying to get to know people. So, I just extended the closing date a little bit just so that I made sure that I had enough time to find the end buyer, or if I was going to take it down myself because it was a duplex. So yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You're on the other side of this now, and you can kind of, as we say, we live life looking forward, but we understand it looking backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking back on radio. Like, what are you feeling now? You were cold calling, texting. You took a chance on this whole radio thing. Like, all right, I'll give this Chris guy a chance to see if he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
And you've already closed 25K and you got more in the pipeline. Like, what are you feeling right now? Like, what are you processing?
I'm actually thinking about reworking my whole system because radio has, if I can, I'm looking to get on some other stations so that I can increase just the reach and increase the demo of, people that I'm reaching to help. So it really has opened my eyes that, man, this works. And I mean, I've been in it for years. I should know that, but it really works for this particular message.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For the cash offer, convenient sell message. I totally agree. So now that you've been doing radio, what are a couple characteristics you like? I know we talk about kind of the top 10, whether that be set it and forget it, or, it's a high quality lead, different things like that, the celebrity status to instant credibility. But for you personally, like now that you're running radio, what are a couple characteristics where you're like, I really like these things about this channel?
Yeah. And well, one of the cool things too, and especially just going back to the fact that I do have a license, is that I can monetize leads and I don't have to be just a one trick pony either. So I know I've gotten people that are looking to rent. I've gotten people that are looking to sell traditionally, people that are looking to buy. Just the opportunities that come in, and then people that just want to ask questions. And I had somebody that I referred to credit restoration. So, and there's others that have called. So, the cool thing about it is just being able to kind of be that go-to person, because people do call and say, yeah, that's the first thing they say. I heard you on the radio. Are you the guy that buys the houses? Or they'll say, because I have my name in it, is this Jeff? Yeah, this is me. So,
do you find when they call in, Jeff, that they're responding to you differently than, let's say, off a text?
Absolutely.
Call?
Absolutely.
And what's the difference that you see? What do you feel differently on those calls?
Because they were the ones that were, making the call. They are already more receptive to feeling like I have the answers to their situation, or I can, better help them. I'm not bugging them. They're probably more bugging me just to, call me and make sure that they can be in line with what we need to get done in order to make the deal happen.
Yeah. It's funny, the opening that you just gave, like, is this Jeff? Why do you think that they're asking it that way? Are they surprised that you're answering the phone?
I think so, because these leads I take myself. I don't farm these out to my VAs. The only thing that I do farm out to them would be any follow-up. So after a week goes by, and if I haven't heard from somebody, or if I just got swamped because of my W-2, I'll have them go through CallRail, and they'll follow up and just say, hey, I just wanted to see if you're still interested in selling. And then they toss it back over to me. But I think they're surprised that I'm the one that actually answers the phone when they call.
Yeah, no, I've always found that about radio. They're surprised because I'll tell you why they're surprised, because they've elevated you. And it's like, this guy's on radio. He's the real deal. I'm surprised this guy even answers the phone himself. And this is where you see the psychology of celebrity status, right? This is Jeff, really? I'm talking to Jeff. And so that's the paradigm that I've seen, whether you're going to do marketing in which you have to hide your brand, right? Like bandit signs. I'll go back to that because you said it. Or you use marketing like radio that actually strengthens and builds your brand. And as you're seeing, because you put your name on there, is building your name. Before too long, Jeff, like, another 6 months down the road, a year, like everybody's going to know who you are, right? You stack on another, radio station or two, people here. I mean, it's amazing that you can become really a dominating force and a local celebrity in a market like that, which is awesome. I mean, that's just like the cherry on top for radio with everything else that comes in. So if you're listening, right, radio still to this day, I've been in this game for 15 years. And I tell you guys, I just don't know of a better marketing channel still. You know me, I'm on the hunt. I'm always looking to crack the code on something fresh. but I just don't know how else you get all of those benefits at the price that you get it at. I mean, this is everything that Jeff's getting, and he's paying $800, which is just insane to me. And he's getting a 1 to 12 return. So even though I've been doing it, radio itself for 10 years, I still step back like I'm hearing it for the first time. And I'm like, this really is a strong channel. Like I just get more excited about it. Cause like it was me over by myself, Jeff, like seeing this and like celebrating it. But now that I see students like you, like just run with this thing and just put it in your hands and do an incredible job, it just excites me. So if you're listening and you've been, thinking about the radio piece, as we always tell you, number one, you got to see if your market's open because we do minimize the amount of people per market. So you want to jump on it, but begin by asking questions and book a call. But this might be that thing that you're looking for if you're getting burnt out on the outbound stuff, which I did for sure. I don't really enjoy outbound marketing. So go to wholesalinginc.com/REI Radio. Again, that's wholesalinginc.com/REI Radio. Book a call, do your due diligence. Again, as always, it's like dating, as I say. You want to make sure that you pick the right person, that it's a right fit. And so I always want to make sure that whatever you pick up to advertise on fits your personality. Because if you're passionate about it, then it's going to work. If you hate doing whatever it is you're doing to market every day, I promise you, you're going to burn out and it's not going to work long term. You can only white knuckle it so long on a marketing channel is what I've learned. So that's just been my overall experience. So Jeff, man, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming to the show. Thanks for breaking down, your overall virtual model. And I'll leave it an open question, if, to kind of wrap up today, anything particularly about radio or business or even your virtual process, any last thing, man, you want to wrap up with today?
No, just definitely give it a try and be patient, but follow everything step by step. Like I literally followed the blueprint. I didn't divert from it. I didn't deviate. I didn't change scripts. Follow the blueprint and it will work. You just got to be persistent and build great relationships with the salesperson and tell them your story, and things will happen. I'm excited and I appreciate just the product that you put in front of us to really tackle and make some things happen. I appreciate it.
I'm proud of you, brother. Just a public shout out, man, for taking a tool that was given to you, and as you said, man, you just followed the roadmap, which sometimes is more easily said than done. A lot of times we want to throw our own creativity on there, but man, just follow the roadmap. It's been split tested.
Hey, look, I've been in radio for 20 years, but I still follow the roadmap. So
yeah. I'm going to tell any student that comes in and gets off track and says, hey, well, why don't we do it this way? I'm going to go, let me tell you about Jeff. Let me tell you a little story about Jeff Anderson.
Right.
So thank you guys so much for joining us today. And as always, we appreciate it. And we will catch you soon when we add more value. Talk to you later.